Hello, my name is Randy Reynolds. I'm a Communication Technical Coordinator here at Mission Health with the Regional EMS Department. I've been tasked to oversee the System Radio Improvement Project, which we are budgeting for the 2017 fiscal year. And the first phase of this is pretty much ready to kick off within the next couple of weeks with security going to a newer type of radio, which is a digital mobile radio from a vendor called Hytera. There were several reasons that we chose this vendor. We looked at all different assets from different vendors and come up and selected this solution because of the availability, from the support standpoint, a cost figure standpoint. It was somewhat a cheaper version as far as financial outlay, and that's, as you know, we're always looking to get the best bang for our buck here at the hospital and try to have a cost savings effect. So with security going to this within the next several weeks with a new repeater and radios and that infrastructure part, we felt like we needed to have some way of introducing y'all to this new system and training you on the new radio. So we figured out making a video to do this would be our best aspect of getting y'all trained on the radios, what buttons do what, and so forth and so on. So with that said, I want to introduce our local vendor for Hytera, and he's my go-to man as far as everything about this whole system, the design, the support, everything that we've done with this system. So I want to introduce Tom Lafferty with RCC Communications, and they're based here in Asheville. Even though their main office is out of Cary, North Carolina, but he's based here in Asheville, so he is local support. So without further ado, so I'm going to let Tom, we're going to go through a little PowerPoint presentation explaining the system here, and then we'll get into the actual radio, part of the radio, and have some video there to help you all understand how to operate the radio itself. So I want to introduce Tom Lafferty. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Randy. Hello, everybody. I'm Tom Lafferty, Radio Communications Company. We have been pleased to be able to offer the Hytera radio solution. It's DMR, which is known as Digital Mobile Radio. And what we will be doing is giving you a basis of how the system works. Randy? Thank you. So what we looked at are all the major facilities for Mission Health, and what we have is a long-term plan to have them all tied together and build a big radio system where all the facilities can interact with each other and talk across the system, whether it be for security, maintenance, emergency management, people that have to talk across and be able to offer quick communications. Also, they'll be able to work in a local area network just like they are now. This is all based on the through the network. DMR is also known as TDMA, Time Division Multiple Access. It's how your cell phones work. And this is one of the radios that we'll be working with. And the way it happens to operate is it goes in 2 time slots, on and off, on and off. And this allows one frequency to actually have 2 voice communications calls simultaneously. So as one person is talking on time slot 1, it opens time slot 2, and they can have a separate communications. It's a more efficient use of the radio spectrum, and that's what we're trying to do. So in this case, we can have security 1 talking on one item, and they'll have, for security, you guys will have a separate security 2 can talk on the second time slot and be able to access and have 2 conversations simultaneously. Again, this is just showing you can have 2 voice calls going simultaneously, whether it's security, down the road maintenance, and when we have multiple repeaters in a whole radio system, it could be tied together. You could be on any channel and go that way. Next one. So one of the major items about digital is because the radios are turned on and off on a regular basis, it actually saves power. So your batteries will last upwards of 40% longer. It's all designed around how much you actually transmit a radio, but versus the old analog radios, the way this operates with it being on and off, it actually does just that. And if you listen to it in a technical format, you would hear the radio being turned on and off, and it does save power. One of the really nice parts about digital is that, as a lot of you are familiar with your phones, you can go out to a certain point and then you start losing coverage. With analog, once you get to a certain point, it slowly goes out, but you get a lot of scratchiness. It's hard to understand when you get down to the final areas of where it would drop off. Digital holds its voice value to the point where you get to a certain point, it just stops, just like your phones might do. But you have the clarity of digital to make this work better for you. Background noise suppression, they have software involved, just like higher end public safety radios. It's the same software package that is in the radio to reduce background noise, and that is also allowing for your voice communications to come out clear on the other side. Some of the features we're going to have, and you'll see this in your radios, will be group call, where we'll have security 1, security 2. There's a group that is designed just for a link eventually for the Asheville PD, but that'll be a separate group. Or what they call private call, where you can make a radio to radio communications. And that allows the radio through its ID to talk to another radio with its ID and just create a separate link. And it's done on a case-by-case basis. You'll be able to go into the keypad, press a button, be able to access the different individuals that way. Eventually, what we're trying to do with that is have it so as we have system-wide, do an all call. And this will allow for the radio, certain people to have that capability, talk across the entire system to allow notifications of major items that are happening and make sure that people are aware of it. We are not going to tier 3, we're going with tier 2, but in a format known as XPT trunking. And this works in a more simplistic way where each repeater, and this would represent one repeater with 2 talk paths. You have a home channel, so you'd have security 1, security 2, and possibly, let's say for the sake of argument, maintenance as that. That's your home channel, but if that's busy, it just moves you to the next available system. Right now, we're going to be locked on certain channels or talk paths in this case. Again, it'll allow different talk groups to be tied together, and you don't cross each other even though they're using the same physical equipment. You'll just have an ID based on the group, and that's how it will represent that group, and your radios will only open up if you have that programmed in the radio. Again, private calls, radio to radio, allow individuals just to be able to have a short conversation, and the radio will revert back. Randy will eventually show you how that works. Next. I'll call, again, all the different groups can be out there, but in an emergency, all call takes precedence. That will happen down the road where if there is an incident, everybody can be notified and told whether they're on the same talk group or not initially. Emergency calls, this is something we can set up down the road where, just like you have for public safety radios, you can have this capability available to you. The enhanced privacy, one of the nice things about digital is just that you have to have all the correct programming in a radio to listen to it. It's not like analog where you can hear right off the air. If you don't have all the correct information programmed in the radio, it's highly unlikely you'll hear it. On top of that, we can eventually do basic encryption, which scrambles it even further and makes it harder for other individuals to listen to your conversation. Again, this meets all the goals for the FCC for future growth, increases your range, your audio quality, battery life, all the features that people want in radios is available now, and the radios through software upgrades can have future capabilities added to them. And that's it. It's a very simple system, and I hope you enjoy it. We look forward to you all having the radios.
Okay, I want to welcome everybody to the second part of the Hytera training for the Hytera UHF DMR portable radios that most everybody in the system will eventually carry, and kind of getting started out with security here. So this is a portable radio, UHF DMR, and DMR stands for Digital Mobile Radio. So let me first declare that I'm not a professional in these videos, so please bear with me on this. We'll try to make it as quick and painless as we can. So look, this is a full function radio. It's got a lot more functions than you probably will ever use, but anyway, we'll go over some of the basic stuff here. So looking at the top of the radio, on the left hand side here, got the talk or talk group channel selector knob. Middle's the antenna, and over to the right here you've got your on off and volume knob and indicator. So right now the radio's showing in the off position, and the reason you can tell that with the little dot lined up next to the little mark here, that means you're in the off position. So once you turn the radio on, it will voice identify what particular channel you're on, and each time you go to a channel up or down, it'll voice identify what channel you have selected. So this is a little LED indicator, and it'll flash a couple times. And what it's doing, DMR radios, they have to communicate with the repeaters, and it's kind of like a handshake. The actual radio has numbers, radio IDs built into it, and the radio's actually communicating with the repeater, letting it know that radio, say 1, 2, 3, 4, I might turn it on and I want to be able to be on the system. So that's what, when you see this LED flash on and off when you turn it on, and or when you turn it off, it will do the same. So let's get started and turn it on and let you hear what that sounds like when it indicates what channel you're on. So when you turn it on, you go clockwise, and I would turn it, say, to halfway or a little more, so you can get plenty of volume. Then you can adjust the volume, go counterclockwise to whatever suits your needs. See, it flashes.
1.
So it indicated we're on channel 1. So when you rotate up, as you will see on the channel or talk group indicator, that there's not quite enough room to put a 2 and a 4 and the even numbers in there. So they've just put the odd numbers in there with a little dot in between. So when you go up to 2 and 3, it'll
2, 3, 4, 5,
and so forth and so on.
1.
Okay, so we'll turn it over. On the left-hand side, this here is your master PTT button, or push to talk. This here's another button, and it's set up for scan, but in the realistic world, scanning is probably not preferred, because there's a likelihood with security that you could miss a call that comes to you from another officer or from dispatch. So I would not encourage using the scan. At some point we may be taking the scan functionality out of the radio, but that's the button you would press if you want to go into the scan mode. Right here, instead of initials, like in my case, there'll be a number on the radio. It'll have like a 5-digit number, and that's the number embedded into the software, into the radio, that communicates with the system itself. So if we turn it all the way over on this side, you'll see right here is the hook. There's a little place kind of like a little hook in there, and the camera's having a little bit hard time focusing on that. But basically this is the connector here for your external microphone that you will have, and you just hook it in, swing it down, and then it'll have a little knob or a little screw thing that actually screws in here and keeps the connector securely fastened to the radio itself. And also on this side will be engraved Mission Health on the radios that you have. And the reason we don't put the department names is because if for some odd reason this radio has to go back for repair or whatever reason that you could be issued a different radio with a totally different number in it. So we really don't want to put security on it, because in the grand scheme of things, somebody else at some point in time could use this radio or whatever, and you might get a little bit newer radio or something. So that's the reason we're not engraving the department name of the department that's using it. Okay, here's the only way I'm going to be able to get this to where you can actually see the screen is to leave the flash on, but I'll try to rotate it. So the display, the upper left will show the signal indicator of the repeater. Right now it's got a little antenna looking thing with an X, if you can see that. That means that the repeater is currently not on, and we don't even have it installed right at the minute. That's the new digital repeater.
2, 1.
So the middle one, the H, see if I can get that. Yeah, you can see the H now kind of in the top, just a little bit to the left of the middle. That means that your radio is in high power. They're programmed to transmit high power just for the dear purpose we never know where you're at, and you may need the extra power. So the far right on the top is your battery indicator. Indicates how much juice is left in your battery. Then in the middle there, like we've shown you in previously, it shows what channel or talk group and what zone you're in. Okay, now we want to talk about the what particular channels are programmed into the radio. So you'll have to bear with me with this flash on the camera and where you can see the screen at. So as you can see, we're on channel 1, because if we
2,
move the knob and back,
1.
it announces we're on 1. So the front of the display will say security, and then always on the bottom, excuse me, I'm trying to get this right to where you can see that. Always on the bottom line, it'll say mission. And the reason for that, these radios are meant to be set up in what they call a zone, or think of it as a group. The radios for security will only be in one zone. If you had a radio to talk in different areas of the hospital, you'd have different zones. But for right now, it's going to be one zone called mission. No matter what channel you're on, or talk group is what they're called, it'll say mission on the bottom. So that's the mission zone, is where you'll be at. So security is channel 1, and what that is the new digital security frequency that you'll be going to as soon as we switch over to the new repeater, when we get it put in here within a couple of weeks or so. So right now, if you were using it today, that is not your talk group that you would be on, but we'll talk about that in a minute. This is the new digital talk group that you'll need to be on when we switch over.
2.
So channel 2 has a talk group called TAC 1, and we put some optional channels in here for whatever purpose that you deem it necessary. Say if y'all are on some kind of a special task and you need to go to talk on a different channel, not necessarily on the channel that dispatch would be talking with you, you could use it in this way. So TAC 1, we're just calling it TAC 1, and it's different than the irregular security dispatch. Unless you're on TAC 1, nobody will hear you.
3.
Okay, TAC 2, even though it comes up and says channel 3, it's actually TAC 2. That's the very same thing as TAC 1, but a different frequency, and for the very same purpose.
4.
Asheville is a new interoperability talk group that's been programmed in our radios, and it's also going to be programmed in the City of Asheville radios for the police department and fire department. And the purpose of that is to give us interoperability communications between mission officers, security officers, what I meant to say, and the Asheville Police Department officers, either dispatch and or the actual fire truck or fire engine company that's coming to your situation, or a district chief. This will be in their 800 megahertz radios, and when they switch over to it'll automatically come out on this talk group here. We will actually have a device in our radio room at Mission that will cross patch from this frequency over to the city frequency, and that patch will be live 24 hours a day. So if you went to this and keyed it up, City of Asheville dispatch would hear you, and or if a police officer or fire captain or firefighter was on that frequency on their end, they would hear you also. But there'll be further instructions come out from security administration staff and a policy on how to use this particular frequency. This is a very new thing and a very needed thing for y'all to have a kind of emergency communications channel to talk to the city.
5,
Channel 5 is named HCC. That's going to be the Hospital Command Center. So when we switch over to new repeaters in the future, that'll be the frequency that you can, somebody on security that you can call if they open the Hospital Command Center, that you would be able to talk to people in the command center on this frequency.
6,
Okay, this is a shuttle. This is their current frequency. It's analog, it's not digital. So it's the same as in your radio now.
7,
Traffic, that's your traffic control members that use that particular frequency.
So
It's,
someone bringing back 1941.
as you can see, there's somebody on it now.
David has 19.
8,
8 is maintenance, the same as it is now. It's analog.
9,
Same thing with grounds. They're on their own frequency. It's analog.
10,
And right now, channel 10, which is the last one programmed in your radio currently.
Sierra 3 to Alpha 11, Roger.
So as you can see, that's where right now,
So I'm on 21.
turn the volume down just a little bit. And as you can see, when you turn the volume down
Just whenever you clear, can you give me a 21?
or up, you can actually see a display of about where your volume setting is without looking at the top control. So right now, when you get your radios, if it's before we do the switch over to the new digital repeater, this is the channel that you would operate off of currently to talk to
Alpha 22 to Alpha 21.
any other officers and our dispatch. So if you go above 10, it'll say no program.
9,
Okay, one other thing I failed to mention
1,
is on the display. If you'll notice on the left-hand side near the top, you see it says RM, and the radio will say different things, but the main two things here is that RM stands for repeater mode. That means that's a repeated channel, and you'll just know that. That's just something to tell you that you're on a repeated frequency. So as we go up,
3,
you'll see now, as you can see there, it's saying XPT. And what XPT is, that's Hytera's methodology or term for, that's the full digital trunking mode. So when you're on that frequency there, you're in full digital trunking mode. So the repeater has control of the radio basically, and it's a higher level digital mode than just your regular repeater mode. Even though the repeater mode is a digital mode, the XPT is a higher level to where the repeater actually is controlling the radio to a certain extent, telling the radio what particular channel to be on without you having to turn channels. As long as you know that you're on TAC 2 or the emergency channel or whatever channel serves the XPT, that's telling you that that's a higher level of higher level mode that the repeater's controlling the radio in a trunking environment. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the menu. You can get into the menu, but I wouldn't go there too much because you could get into doing some things that probably not really advantageous to you right at this time. At some future point, we may get into doing some of the things. You could actually go into the contacts list, and what I mean by that, there's a list in the radio of Alpha, Bravo, Charlie contacts, and if we set it up, you could actually send a message to that particular contact by going radio to radio without in a digital mode. So if you hit that, you could hit contact again, and there's the list. And I'm not sure why it's not showing the full list. So basically this can get kind of complicated. Same thing with message. You could actually we could have canned messages set up in here to where you could put in here like call dispatch or whatever in a canned message to send it it'd come out like a text on a phone type of deal. But for day-to-day use, I wouldn't use the menu too much. Another thing, this is where if you had more than one zone, which in my radio it does, I can actually go to the different zones. But in the security radios, you'll just have the top zone called mission and programmed in it. And that's why the contacts list isn't showing correctly, because I'm not got the actual a security radio here to show you that. So if you get into the menu mode, I wouldn't get in there and play around too much. I mean, you can look at it, but if you get into it and this is your back button here, you can just, so if you get here, you just go back. So basically for day-to-day operations, you wouldn't use these buttons a whole lot. You could actually, later down the road, like I said, we could get in here and teach people how to send a text from one officer to another, but until you learn a little bit about the radio, that's kind of a little bit complicated to do, but it is possible. Okay, so if you want to call the officer that was calling you or dispatch back, I've figured out what the problem was. The radios were too close to each other. So if you want to key up here and call the radio to the Officer Joe back and answer him, so I'm going to move this radio away, so when Officer Joe keys up, you can see his ID number is 10202, and that should transform into the alias and show his alias if it's Alpha 1, Bravo 1, Charlie 3, or whatever it may be. It should come up and show that. We may have to do a little bit more programming to get that, but basically you'd be able to see that. So basically what could happen is without that officer or whoever it is saying anything, when that radio keys up, you could tell, if you memorize numbers enough, you could actually know that that's Alpha 1 or Bravo 3 or whatever their number is, and them not even have to say anything. If they were in an emergency and just keyed up and said help, if somebody caught their number, they would know that dispatch or another officer, and I left the radio keying too long, I got a beep tone. But basically, if he keyed up and said help and that's all he was able to key, if somebody's seen that number, they would know it would come from Officer Joe or whatever his alias is, Alpha 1. So that's kind of how the ID system works in the radio. Okay, this one is the same radio, but with the belt clip on it. I didn't show that earlier because I don't have the belt clip on mine. So basically you just squeeze it in and you could run it down on your belt. I'm not really sure how these radios will, if they'll fit. They should fit in if some of y'all have the leather holsters. It should fit in there okay, but I'm not 100% sure of that. But that's what the belt clip's meant for, just to slip down over your belt, and then catch down here. There's a catch there to keep it onto your belt securely. So pretty much that's the basic functions of the radio. Like I said, there's a lot higher level functions that the radio will do, but just for a day-to-day purpose thing, I don't believe that y'all will need that right now. If some future point some of y'all want me to come over and teach a class on how to do some of these higher level functions, we could certainly do that. So I hope y'all really enjoy these new radios. They should be a vast improvement technically and physically, a little bit wider than what you carried, and you should be able to communicate a whole lot better with these new digital radios than the ones you had before. So I want to thank you for your time. If you have any questions, just please give me an email. It's randy.reynolds@msj.org, and I'll be certainly glad to answer any questions you have, or come over and give a class or whatever anyone needs. I'll be there to help you out. So I certainly hope that this has been a worthwhile video for y'all, and just let me know of any needs that you might have, and hope y'all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching the video.